Hey everyone, it's Marc from Canada Wealth Management. Today I want to discuss the two mistakes that you need to steer clear from in retirement. Now, typically I don't talk about investing in our videos, but today we're going to change that because the first mistake to avoid is poor retirement portfolio construction. So I want to share a real life example. So we're going to peel back the curtain with someone that we recently met with that we'll call Christy. Now, Christy was looking to retire, but she had no idea whether or not she was on track. She had been working with an advisor for many years, but she only heard from him once per year when the time came to top up her TFSA and RSP. Now, unfortunately, we see this happen way too often. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a similar experience. Christy had $900,000 in her RSPs, $125,000 in her tax-free savings account, and $365,000 in her non-registered account. Her plan was to take her CPP as soon as she retired and to take her old age security as soon as she was eligible at age 65. She was currently renting, which is costing her $2,000 per month, and she also wanted to be able to spend an additional $4,500 per month throughout her retirement indexed to inflation. She shared her investment statements and all three of her accounts were invested in the same manner. So as we can see, 58% of her portfolio was invested in a Canadian equity income fund, 12% of her portfolio was invested in a short-term income pool, so on and so forth. As a whole, her portfolio was made up of just over 60% stock, 30% bonds, and 6% cash. This would have her in line with a moderate or balanced approach, so she wasn't being super conservative, but she also wasn't being super aggressive either. She was somewhere in the middle. To me, there were a couple of red flags that came up when I dove deeper into Christy's portfolio. The first one being was how her portfolio was allocated on a regional basis. She had under 1% of her portfolio invested in Asia, 4% invested in Europe, and the remainder was invested in North America. So of that 95% that was invested in North America, we can see that 82% of that was invested in Canadian companies. Don't get me wrong, I'm a proud Canadian, but Canada only represents about 3% of the world's stock market. So to have 82% of her portfolio invested in Canada is quite high, and she's missing out on the benefits of diversifying across different regions and different sectors. The second issue that Christy's portfolio was facing was fees. So she was aware that she was paying her advisor a fee of 1.25%, but she had no idea she was paying additional fees inside of her portfolio. So each one of her investments had an additional fee attached to it. So her Canadian equity income fund, as an example, had a fee of 0.76%. So that means that if that fund made 5% during the year, she wasn't getting that. She was only receiving 4.24% because the fee was coming off the top. So in total, when we look at all of her different investments, she was paying an additional fee of 0.6%. This brought her total management fee up to 1.85%. Now, there's nothing wrong with paying fees, but the value has to be there. So for Christy to receive one call per year to pay a fee of 1.85%, I would consider that pretty steep. In regards to Christy being able to retire, she was in fact on track. We looked at a couple different withdrawal strategies, and the first one we looked at was to use her more tax-efficient investments first in retirement. So to start off by withdrawing from her TFSA and non-registered accounts at the beginning of her retirement, and once those accounts were used up, to start using her registered accounts. With this strategy, at the plan's end, Christy was left with a net estate of $178,000. Our second strategy was to be a little bit more tax efficient and target a certain income per year. So in this case, that was $73,000 per year in taxable income that we wanted to generate. This strategy would force Christy to draw on her registered accounts much sooner into retirement to reach that taxable income level. This would also allow her TFSA to keep growing over time. So by implementing this strategy, her net estate at the plan's end was $380,000. That's an increase of over $200,000 just by making that one change in our withdrawal strategy. This brings us to the second mistake that we want to steer clear from, which is to not build out your retirement portfolio in line with your retirement withdrawal strategy. So with this strategy, her TFSA just keeps growing over time. So since she doesn't need access to that money anytime soon, she can afford to be more aggressive inside her tax-free savings account in terms of how much she has allocated to stocks. Now, on the other hand, we're withdrawing funds from her RSPs and her non-registered accounts much sooner in retirement. So with those accounts, she could be more conservative. So what we want to do is keep her overall portfolio allocation as moderate. We just want to be more tactical as far as where her conservative investments are held and where her more aggressive investments are. By implementing this portfolio strategy, there will be more tax-free growth inside of her TFSA. So her net estate at the plan's end increases to $570,000, an increase of $190,000 over our last scenario where each account was invested in the same manner. Make sure to steer clear of these two mistakes, and for more tax mistakes to avoid in retirement, check out this video.